director of the Friends of the North Fork. We are a small nonprofit founded in 1988. I'm the only full-time employee with a budget of about $200,000. We have a half-time education coordinator and a part-time office manager, and that's it. But we also have close to 400 members and volunteers who help us make our programs happen. It's a nice contrast to JMU, where you couldn't begin to, it's like the trying to look at an elephant. You really can't begin to see what you got. We're based in Woodstock. Any Shenandoah County folks here besides John? Okay, good. The North Fork runs north of Harrisburg along 81. That's the basic answer. And of course, we would love to have you involved in our organization, so we're here too. That's what we're selling, is we'd love your support if you're interested in getting involved in any way. We'd also love, before I get into all the rest of it, we'd also love our half-time education coordinator, Cindy Frenzel, is available to come to classrooms. She can do project work, do a lot of the programs that we'll probably talk about too, right? No, okay. But we're interested in broadening the footprint of our work. There are a lot of other small nonprofits. I'll talk about a few of those, but not many have an actual dedicated education program. And so the more that we can do to help your schools meet the Chesapeake Bay goal and the governor's executive order. How many are familiar with the executive order that just came down last year? Okay, it's going to start, hopefully, put pressure. It may eventually get farmers to get their cows out of the stream, but we'd like to make it get kids out of the classroom, even more so, and get them out to have meaningful watershed educational experiences. And that's something we are very interested in working with you on. We do a lot of different things: education, science, advocacy, and community action. We clean up the river. We do all sorts of things. The North Fork, again, runs from North Rockingham up through Shenandoah, and it goes on into Warren, around the bend there. We like getting kids in the water. I think this is every 7th grader in Woodstock who went out for a field trip, and they ended up, their teachers, not us. We don't have insurance for this kind of stuff. Ended up getting them wet last spring. Some of the other small nonprofits, and I mention these because there are a lot of folks who are under the radar. Some of you work with some of these groups, some of you work with us. This is just a sampling of some of the ones who are involved with directly with water quality issues around the area. And there are many others. And the next speaker will talk more about the governmental organizations that are also coming in. One of the nonprofits that we work with a lot, and Karen would actually be a great person to be speaking today, is the Friends of the Shenandoah River. Not the North Fork, but the Shenandoah as a whole. And they run a monitoring program. Karen actually has an electrical engineering background. She's able to fix all the equipment in her own lab, which is a good thing to be able to do because it's expensive to fix. They were founded in 1989. They're up at Shenandoah University in Winchester, but they have an ongoing water quality monitoring program for nutrient monitoring. And their lab is one of the few volunteer monitoring programs that actually has a Department of Environmental Quality certified laboratory. One of the few in the country that's got that level of certification.
Yeah, level 3 certification, which means it's pretty comparable to state level labs.
Yeah, so their data can be used to help justify or influence listing and delisting of streams from the dirty waters list. They have about 70 volunteer monitors. This is the map of all the sites where they are currently monitoring on a pretty regular basis. You'll notice there's a little gap here in northern Rockingham, Linville Creek. We're working currently with the Soil and Water Conservation District and Friends of the Shenandoah. They're working to get a little better handle on that area in conjunction with an implementation grant that Megan's doing. So anyway, know that that's going on. These are a lot of retired folks who are out there, have some experience, and might be of interest to your program. Our organization, we do a lot of environmental education. Since our only other staff person is a half-time education coordinator, it's all relative. We're also deeply involved with river health. We've been concerned about the fish kills on the river. We've done studies on trace organics and coli recently. We're currently doing a project to put in a large rain garden at the Edinburgh Mill in Edinburgh. And we're also involved with Seventh Bend State Park, which I'll tell you about in a minute. You probably haven't been there because it's not open. We're very interested just in getting more people out on the water, and because we feel like people will care more about the river if they're out there. So as much as we'd love to see kids in laboratories doing things, we think that field science, organismal biology, earth sciences are all, quite honestly, suffering pretty seriously these days, both at the college level and probably at your levels too. And the more we can get kids to actually engage with the real world occasionally, the better they'll be. A few years ago, I felt like we really needed to get kids to engage so they pay attention to computers and other things. I'm feeling like we're sort of on the other side of that spectrum almost now. A resource that may be of use to you is a regional resource. There are no state parks around here. The closest one is Shenandoah River Park, which is up in Warren County, or Dalton. Woodstock, right here. Interstate, half an hour up the road from here. Seven Bends is right next to Woodstock. And it was established about 10 years ago. It has not yet been developed at all. There's nothing there. We're looking for high school classes, talking some with the governor's school and others, and also master naturalist programs and others. We'd like to segment out a small portion of this park, going from the river up the mountain, through the national forest and up to the summit, to do long-term longitudinal studies and look at transects through there. There's all sorts of things that we could do as this park develops that could be an interesting natural classroom. They've got $2 million of the $48 million to develop the park, so it's going to be a pretty undisturbed site for a long time. They're not going to have that money to do a lot of we're not going to see a lot of Winnebagos through there anytime soon. It's going to be day use and hiking. It's 1,066 acres. It's got 4 miles of river frontage, most of which is in this one little area from here, around here. That's about 3 miles of it. That's where a lot of the activity is expected. This stuff is really, a lot of that's very rugged side of Massanutten Mountain. It borders the national forest along that whole right-hand border there, and has no facilities yet. So our organization is the official community support organization for the state park, designated by the Department of Conservation and Recreation. We get the volunteers together, we help organize a lot of things, and since they don't have any staff yet, they draw on our vast resources to help them have a presence at the park. And that's, it's available. One thing we're somewhat known for in some circles is a workbook I've got over on the counter for the middle school folks in particular. Stanley the Stone Rollers are our local charismatic megafauna, if you will. He's our panda. And Stanley wrote a book that's tied in with the middle school curriculum, tied in with the SOLs. It's available online. You can download sheets from that. You can use all the various lessons. You can adapt them, macroinvertebrates, all sorts of stuff. A lot of resources like that out there, but this focuses on the Shenandoah, and it's being adapted now for the Ravenna by a group in Charlottesville. We expect it will be adapted and picked up in different ways around the Bay region. Stanley does get around. He actually is a charismatic megafauna, as I said, 6 foot tall. He was up in D.C. not too long ago. He was at the Red Wing Roots Festival last summer. He gets a lot of love, and he can come to your classroom if you're interested in us bringing Stanley and using him as a prop to talk to your students. I was going to talk a little bit about this, but I think since John is here, maybe I'll ask him to just say a few words about our summer camp, which he helped orchestrate last summer. It was based on Project Face Learning, right?
So this is grant funded by the Chesapeake, I'm not sure of the funding source.
Chesapeake Bay Restoration Fund,
Okay.
license plate money.
Yeah, and it's open to, I think, pretty much anybody in the North Fork Shenandoah River
Yeah,
watershed.
we actually had kids from Harrisonburg and from up to Strasburg.
Yeah, so it's a week-long program that we meet the kids at 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little before, and we have them until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Each day there's a different activity planned. The theme of the week, we haven't met to decide what it'll be this summer, but the theme last summer was, just understanding, what do we need to know in order to really be able to help the Shenandoah River stay healthy. That was kind of an overarching theme. And so each day we try to do activities that are based on problem solving. It's kind of probably more, it's more actually problem-based learning than project, although the two are very similar. And so, yeah, so we put an overarching question for the day, and then we go out and we do science, river science, all day. So some of the things we did last year, we went to the caverns underground. We looked for evidence of water underground. We looked for life underground. We shouldn't have found life underground, but we did find some green matter under there. We figured that was because they actually have lights in the caverns. And then up above ground, we spend a day floating the river. We fish on the river part of the day. We went and saw turtles. What was the name of the reserve over there?
I didn't know we did.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the reserve.
Some wood.
But there's a research center in kind of northwestern Shenandoah County. I think it's Shenandoah County. But it's way out west of Strasburg. And we actually went and they have a tracking beacon on a turtle, and we actually tracked the turtle down, found it, and it's really quite amazing, and the kids really embrace it. So the camp that we did was ages, I think we did like 4th or 5th grade up through 7th grade, something like that. And we were full last year. I don't know how we're looking this year, but enrollment's coming up again any time.
So I think our program learns a lot by having full-time teachers like John teach our summer camps. And then our staff actually gets our own professional development by hanging out with you guys. It helps us a lot. We'll be running that camp again. We also do a camp for younger kids, 1st through 3rd. It's really just to get them out, to get them comfortable being out. And this felt much more rigorous, to say the least. So we're also going to be offering this summer a camp with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation for high school kids, where we will be taking them for a couple of days on the North Fork, and then several days probably at Fox Island or one of the other centers that the Bay Foundation has. We don't have the date set because we're waiting on the Bay Foundation to give us their schedule. And we have in the past done teacher trainings on that model, North Fork to the Bay. Those of you in Rockingham have an opportunity to work directly with the Bay Foundation on that. We've had teachers come from Tidewater for our program. A couple of days up in the North Fork, going to farms, going to wastewater treatment plants, going to see types of local resources and meet the local professionals who are available to you back in almost any locality that you can then adapt and use for your curriculum. And then spend a few days down on the bay, get the suntan, hanging out with that fun learning. You gotta give me a signal on time because I can go quite a while. Our science program, just so you know, we are engaged, despite our tiny size, we are engaged in pretty serious science. In 2007, we had a $50,000 grant. We did a study on trace organics with the U.S. Geologic Survey. The concern about the fish kills in the river, the Shenandoah, which raised their heads again in 2014. We had a pretty significant fish kill. We may be having another one this spring. We'll find out later this year. We work a lot with the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries on those issues. But we found in that study, we basically put little artificial fish in the river for a good long month or so. And before I started there, we found 59 organic chemicals in the water, most of which are not tested in drinking water. So, the North Fork is the water source for Woodstock, Strasburg, Winchester, directly. And, there's a lot of stuff out there. And there's a lot of stuff that could be coming from your shampoo. It could be coming from pharmaceuticals. It could be coming from everything we put into poultry and cattle in an intensive livestock area. Atrazine is probably coming from being sprayed as an herbicide. There's a number of herbicides here. I would want to point out, while this stuff is in the river, and it may be in the drinking water, and it has been showing up when they've done detailed testing in DC's drinking water, some of this stuff shows up. We have done that drinking water testing in valley localities, very expensive. But what we do want to point out is that these are levels below the danger levels that, but the problem is, the synthesis of all these different things, what they might be doing. When you've got intersexed fish, you start to worry what that might be doing in the hormonal balances for young kids and stuff like that. So, and then there are all the people who are on well water. And the groundwater around here, of course, is deeply connected. The flow of the North Fork in the summer is probably 50% from springs and underground sources. So, who knows what you might be getting at your local well. Anyway, just want to let you know, last summer we did an E. coli study, looking at high-use recreation sites. We studied a bunch of different sites from Harrisonburg here, Harrisonburg's down here, Winchester's up there. We found if you get out in the water, this is probably true for the North River or the South Fork too. Each one of these is a test. And so this is the Department of Health's line for colony-forming units. So there was a decent chance at a number of our sites, and again, these are the upstream ones, surprisingly, like up in Falks Run, Bergton. And those are down on the main stem in Clark County, luckily around Woodstock, pretty clean. Right? State Park looks pretty good, I'm quite relieved. But you know, you're rolling the dice if you've got an open wound and infections and stuff. So anyway, I did say, I got the signal. Please avoid exposure when you're out there. And I will share my STEM journey another time. Although I did have some great slides, my early career choices. Looking at the military, police, and fire.
Thank you.
Thank you.